I'm going to build a basic Slack slash command that uses PipeGears as its backend. The slash command is going to do a user contact database lookup, and will use a search term passed to us to do a first name or last name match on the contact database. Alright, now to start, we're going to need a trigger in our PipeGears flow, and I'm going to pick the Slack webhook, which is designed to work specifically with Slack. So this creates a custom URL for us that will receive, it's an endpoint that will receive inbound calls from Slack. And so we'll just set the path to lookup, and this is arbitrary, you can pick whatever path that you need. And the signing secret here is something that we're going to get from our Slack app, and it will help us validate that the requests are actually authentic and coming from Slack and not from somewhere else. Alright, so let's copy this because we'll need it when we configure our Slack app. And we'll save this, and let's just go create that Slack app right now. So we'll create an app demo. I'll assign to a workspace that I've created just for this demo. I'll create the app, and we'll create a slash command, and I'll call it slash lookup. And here's where we paste the request URL from for PipeGears, where the endpoint where the data is going to come in from Slack, and it was lookup. And short description, contact lookup, usage hint, partial name. Alright, and that's all we need to do, so I'll save that. And now if we go to basic information, we'll be able to see what our signing secret is, and we need the signing secret in order for PipeGears to be able to do something with that data. So let's just show this. Of course, this is a test environment, so in a production environment you would want to keep that secret. I will paste my signing secret here, and the last thing that we need to do within Slack is actually install the app. So let's just do install app to workspace, authorize, and that's it. I think we're done here, so let's go back to PipeGears. And now to test to see if this is working, I will actually just do an action that responds to the inbound request from Slack to the slash command, and I'll connect that. And let's just respond with a basic static OK message. I'll save that, we'll start the PipeGears app, and let's do a slash command to see if that actually works. Look up, hello, and I've received my OK message from PipeGears. That's great. Now let's go see what happened here. If we want to see the inbound request coming in to our slash trigger, I can open this console here, and this will show me in real time the messages that are coming into this trigger when we send a slash command. So let's run that slash command again just to see what we get from Slack. Okay, and here we go. So I have a message that came in with a bunch of request parameters that were sent as part of the HTTP query, and so we can see we have the channel name here, the command name, this is the message, the text message that came in, hello. And so within PipeGears I've created an attribute here called request.body.param.text, and this is going to be the payload, or the text that I want to work with in my flow. Alright, now let's just do something more to make it dynamic, just to see if we're actually getting that message. We'll mirror the slash command, and my attribute was request.parameter.text, and we'll save this, and let's rerun that command to see what happens here. Slash lookup hello, and you said hello. Perfect. So we're seeing the data, we're talking to one another and understanding each other. Great. Now I think we're ready to add a database lookup. So what we want to do here is when a user says lookup, we want to take that first word that comes within the sentence and disregard everything else after that. We don't want to capture anything after any white space that would come after this. So let's do as our first step within PipeGears, we're going to do a simple string extraction to remove anything if there's a white space. Okay, so to do that, we have in the logic section, we have a bunch of string manipulation gears that we can pick. So I'll do the string extractor, and this will allow me to take as an input the text parameter that I received, and I'll add an extraction rule that says keep everything before this string, and this string is going to be just a white space, a single white space, and assign to a new field name, I'll call it term. This is going to be the term that we're going to be using to do our query. Right, so you can't see it here because it's a white space, but what this will do is it will take that incoming text and strip off everything, including that first white space and after that white space. Right, we'll save this, and now to access the database, we need to actually configure a database connection. So let's just drag the SQL data source here, and in order to supply this demo with some data, I've actually created a demo data set here in an SQL database. This is just a basic contact database with first name, last name, email, and so on. Okay, so I will now connect or configure the connection to that database. And I'll create a label here, my DB. This is just a label that I can refer to in my workspace, in my PipeGears workspace, if I want to access this data source. This is pretty much just standard configuration parameters for an SQL database. So I'll save this. In order to actually use this, I need to add an action that queries the database. So I use the SQL query gear, and I will connect my flow to that gear. And once I get to this point, I want to actually issue the query. So I'll select my data source. And if you remember, I have my term that I have coming in from the previous gear to use. So I'll just create my query here. Users first. So we want to do a first name match of a partial term. And I want to use my term that I've extracted here. And let's do the same thing for last name. So I want to match on first name or last name if we have a matching term. Okay, so we have select everything from the users table where the first name matches this term or the last name matches this term, and assign that to a new variable called user. Alright, let's save this, and we're going to see what happens when we run this, just for fun. Now you'll notice here that my web reply is no longer connected, so when I issue the slash command in Slack, I definitely won't get a response. But I will see something in the console here. So let's try that. Look up, let's try Mary. Okay, so as expected I got nothing, but I actually got a query here from this database, from this term that I got, the text Mary, and I actually issued the query, and I can see here that I actually have SQL result set that came back with one row. The term was Mary, and I have the user information for the user Mary. So this is great. This seems to be working. So the next thing that I need to do here is add a little bit of additional logic, because if I don't get a response, I want to send a different message to the user than if I do get a response. So I'm going to actually add a second web reply here to add conditional behavior, and I'm also going to add a Boolean logic to check how many rows I received from the SQL query. Right, so let's just select the number of SQL rows that we received, and if this is greater than 0, it will evaluate to true, in which case this path, the true path, will be followed, and if it evaluates to false, then the false path will be followed here. Alright, and for false, if we don't have any results, I'll just say no results, and if we do have some results, I want to actually provide the full information that I received there. So it was user, if I remember right, it was the first element, and first name, and then I wanted last name, and then I want, let's just add the email as well. Alright, so this is okay for now. Let's just keep it like that. We'll save that, and let's just rerun that again and see what happens now when we query do a lookup for Mary. Okay, and now I got my results back, Mary Bosa at example.com. So this seems to be working great. Now the last thing I would want to do is, just in case for whatever reason my database query doesn't look up, in the SQL query gear we also have a failure path in case for whatever reason the database fails to respond. So we can add an additional web reply here to handle that path where we would want to respond with oops, didn't work, some kind of an error message, whatever you would like to put here. Alright, so we'll click Save, Now let's run this again. Let's see what would happen if we actually do a query where there is no user. Do we have a Steve in there? Nope, no results. Alright. Do we have an Alan? Yes, we do. And we can also do a partial lookup. Let's just say ing, so Joe King at example.com. Alright, so we can do partial lookups on first name or last name based on what we've configured here. Of course, you could change that to whatever suits your needs. But this is a basic example that shows how to create a simple slash command and use PipeGears as a backend to respond with some basic user data.